Democrat incumbent Gluesenkamp Perez just got what could be a formidable challenger in Washington State's 3rd Congressional District. The Southwest Washington District includes Vancouver and Clark County, as well as Lewis, Pacific, Cowlitz, and Skamania Counties, and a small part of Thurston County. It leans slightly Republican. President Trump carried CD3 in the last election. The challenger, Republican Senator Braun of Chehalis. He's the minority leader in the Washington State Senate. Mr. Braun served in the Navy for 31 years, is president of a family business that manufactures emergency vehicles, and has been in the Washington State legislature since 2013. Senator Braun, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Why are you running for Congress?
Well, this is something my wife and I have been talking about for a while, and have gotten a lot of encouraged locally in the district, and also from the national folks back in D.C. Look, I think I bring the right type of experience to be successful. I've run a business here in Washington for over 25 years, providing over 350 jobs in the local area. I served, as you mentioned, I served 31 years in the Navy, 7 active and the rest reserve. Retired a few years ago. I have good national defense experience, and I've had the opportunity to serve as a citizen legislator for the last 13 years in the state Senate, where I have lots of experience in budgeting and have served as the leader for the last 5 years. So I think I bring the right experience to the job. I think there are real challenges in Southwest Washington and Washington more generally and broadly in our country that I can help with. And I think that we're not getting the type of representation we need in D.C. right now with the current incumbent. Look, I think she's genuine. I think she's terrific, got a press release, but in terms of actually getting things done, it's just not happening. And most recently, she decided to vote against a tax reduction or for a tax increase, depending on how you want to frame it, in Washington. Instead, wanted to prevent folks who are receiving Medicaid and welfare stamps from having a very straightforward work requirement if they're able-bodied with no dependents. I think that's not consistent with the values of Southwest Washington. We want to help people. We want to provide these types of services, but we want to make sure we maintain that for the folks who are truly the most vulnerable.
You're a supporter of President Trump, and you've heard the criticisms of the president's reconciliation bill. What do you like about it, especially relative to your constituents in Southwest Washington?
Well, I think there's a number of things there. I mentioned a couple there. I think it's super important that we maintain the current tax rates. Without that bill, the average resident would have seen over a $3,000 per year increase. Look, affordability in Washington, especially for working Washingtonians, is really tough. And adding that kind of increase to their income tax would have been untenable for many folks. So I think that's a good thing. I think there's been some criticism of the changes to Medicaid, but I think they're missing the point. These are not changes that reduce benefits for truly vulnerable people. They simply make sure that the folks who are signed up are truly eligible, the folks who are able-bodied and with no dependents have a very basic work requirement, 20 hours per week, either working or volunteering. This is not big. And then also making sure, simple accountability things like making sure folks are only signed up in one state at a time. In Washington, this is a big deal. We spent an extra $150 million in this last year paying for Medicaid for individuals who are signed up in another state. Now, that doesn't mean all those folks should be signed up only in one state or only in a state other than Washington, but certainly it makes sense to make sure they're only signed up in one state and get that savings, at least part of that savings for Washington. So we have the funding in the program. And remember, this is a state-run program, but federally funded program to continue to serve vulnerable folks. So whether it's that, and you could go on and on. There's benefits to reducing the cost of energy, which has grown very expensive in our state. There's real benefits to the ag community. There's real investment for border security. There's real investment for national defense. So I think there's a lot of things in that bill. Big bill, complex bill. No big bill like that is perfect, but on the whole, right for Southwest Washington.
You mentioned agriculture. There is a significant amount of agriculture in your district. What do you think of the ICE raids that are looking for illegal immigrants, many of whom work in the fields?
So frankly, there's been a lot of media coverage on this, but in terms of seeing actual raids at agricultural facilities, I'm not aware of that happening in Southwest Washington. There's certainly been activity to go after folks who are in our country illegally and are wanted on other either related or unrelated crimes in their country of origin or in the U.S. I think that's appropriate. We need to be a nation of laws. We need to make sure, if you don't like the law, there's a process to change it, but we need to enforce the law. We need to do it compassionately and thoughtfully. And so far, I think that's exactly what's happening in Washington. I think that's consistent with the values of Southwest Washington.
Well, a lot of people would say that innocent people are being caught up in this as well. I mean, the emphasis is on getting criminals and people who are bad people out of the country. But in terms of workers, maybe their only illegality is that they don't have documentation. So are you concerned about the impact on people who are getting caught up in this?
Well, you're going to have to bring an exact case to me, but certainly if innocent folks are being caught up on that, that's not right, and we should take that seriously. But we've had a lot of misrepresentation. We just had a pretty well-known one just north of here in Olympia, where there was a claim that an innocent person had been swept up, but actually once they got to the facts, that person had an extensive warrant out for his arrest, and it wasn't as innocent as supposed. Look, I think there's we need to enforce the law. I'm a big fan of E-Verify as an example. If employers are using that as a way to make sure they're hiring the right people and they're following the law, then I don't think you have this kind of trouble. It's where folks are not following the law where we're getting into problems.
The incumbent Congresswoman Gluesenkamp Perez is not your typical liberal Democrat. She narrowly defeated her previous Republican opponent, Joe Kent, twice. Kent was the former Special Forces veteran who's now leading President Trump's counterterrorism efforts. So what gives you a better chance in your mind than Mr. Kent, who lost to Gluesenkamp Perez twice?
Well, look, I think ultimately the voters are going to have to decide based on what they see, experience, record. We talked about, I think I have deep business experience. I have significant experience as a citizen legislature. I've been very successful both in the majority and the minority in getting real things done for my legislative district. I believe I can do the same thing in Congress. My opponent has been very prolific at press releases, but as I said earlier, turning those releases into actual change in Southwest Washington hasn't been as impressive. And I think fundamentally she's on the wrong track when it comes to maintaining, and improving affordability here in Washington. Taking a vote that would have measurably increased taxes for Southwest Washington residents, I think is in the wrong direction.
Are you in favor of federalizing law enforcement as the president is doing in Washington, D.C.? What do you think of that situation there?
Well, I think you have to recognize that, Washington, D.C. has become a very unsafe place to visit. It's I think ranked number 4 is the fourth highest crime rate, fourth most dangerous city in the nation. And the folks are making the argument that it's coming down. But if you're coming down and you're still at number 4, certainly demands more attention. I think it's pretty hard to make the argument that somehow more focus on making sure folks are following the law is a bad thing. It seems like the right direction to me. Our nation's capital should be safe for folks all over the country to visit and feel safe in. And that's, I think, exactly what the aim is here.
We've got less than 30 seconds left, but I just want to point out that this race will have a lot of eyes on it. Republicans trying to maintain their advantage in Congress. How much national support do you expect to get in this race?
Well, this is could be a top race in the country. Certainly, it's one of a few races that President Trump won, that a Democrat House member won. For that reason, I think there'll be a lot of attention. But we got to start out by building support in the district. We got to do our work here at home, building support, raising money for a really aggressive campaign next year. So I would say, starting off, I got work to do, and the people of the state of Southwest Washington are going to have to make a decision based on the record and the work I put in.
Senator Braun, thank you very much for being on Eye on Northwest Politics. We'll be talking to you again in the future.
Thanks for having me on.
Also running for the seat at this point, Republican businessman Anthony Barron, who will face Senator Braun in the primary. And on the Democrat side, Brent Henridge, a former movie theater operations manager.